With that, let me turn to the ranking member for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we all know, for a long time, the China challenge was foremost on our minds. And of course, along came the Ukraine war, which presents new challenges. But having said that, we can't take our eye off the ball either, since China is, I think we all agree, the challenge of the 21st century. Well, this hearing was planned before the unfortunate Chinese spy balloon flyover last week's episode highlights just how important addressing this competition really is. China messed up publicly, but this only highlights what it has been doing behind the scenes for years. Every country around the world should take note, because the Chinese will do this to other countries also. Secretary Blinken's trip postponement was a good step, but I hope, Deputy Sherman, that you will shed more light on where we go from here. This was an egregious assault on U.S. sovereignty, and obviously it requires a response, and it requires a plan going forward. Another note, I am concerned that the administration still does not consider Congress a true partner on China, I believe. I've heard about a lot of briefings and phone calls from reporters and think tanks since last week regarding the balloon incident, but the outreach to the Hill was slow and sloppy at best. I have said for years that we, Republicans and Democrats, the executive and legislative branch, have to work together if we are going to confront what China is doing. Without that, we will not be successful. The first place, and this is not a partisan issue, this is truly an American issue and a bipartisan issue. The first place where we should demonstrate resolve is through better support for Taiwan. Nothing is more urgent than ensuring Taiwan has the capabilities and training to deter Chinese aggression. If we do not help them prepare now, we may all pay a much higher cost later. Another priority this year will be oversight of the implementation of the Taiwan Enhanced Resilience Act, signed into law last December, but it was not adequately funded in the appropriations process. I was very disappointed in this. The Biden administration said over and over again that it supports security assistance to Taiwan. However, it did nothing to advocate for Taiwan during the appropriations process. Similarly, this committee and Armed Services Committee has asked the administration last summer for a prioritized list of Taiwan's military needs. Despite repeated requests, we still do not have that list. Beyond Taiwan, we must counter the CCP's malign influence both in the U.S. and abroad. I expect to hear about how the department addresses issues like influence in universities, Chinese police stations here in the United States and in other countries, and corruption. I also hope to hear that the administration is going to counter the flow of Chinese fentanyl into the United States via third countries like Mexico. Steps we take domestically, of course, matter, but China actively avoids actions that could reduce the supply of chemicals that are illegally sent to the United States. Various parts of the U.S. government, including myself, have asked the Chinese government to take basic steps like passing a Know Your Customer type law. The CCP's response? That it won't cooperate until we remove a Chinese scientific institute from the entity list, and that we should just tell U.S. citizens not to do drugs. The Chinese government's tacit endorsement of this massive drug trade is just not right. Also, we need the Chinese do more to alleviate human suffering in the U.S. and abroad on this very important drug issue. Finally, I want to highlight legislative priorities. As the chairman has already stated, the chairman and I have met and discussed at length our ideas on China. China is certainly our high priority in this legislative session as we go forward. And we're going to have a joint bill, we hope, to be introduced, and of course that will include parts of the Senate bill in 2021 that we passed, the Strategic Competition Act. The chairman and I have already discussed collaborating on China legislation this year, and I look forward to working with him on that. Also, we have the Econ Act that was previously introduced and probably will be part of what we put in our joint bill. With that, we have a lot to cover, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman.